More often than not, I have a really hard time picking out an outfit, but Armoire makes getting dressed super easy. With a clothing rental membership from Armoire, build the perfect wardrobe with brands that are high quality, unique, and recommended just for you. All you have to do is take a 5-minute style quiz and select items from your dynamic, personalized closet. The styles show up at your door in as little as 2 days. Then when you're ready for new clothes, just swap them out for more new-to-you styles. I'm currently on this dress kick, but not just any dress, dresses with cutouts. And I was so excited to find quite a few on Armoire that I'm able to rotate between beach outings, brunches, and of course, walking my dog in style. Right now, for our listeners, you can give Armoire a try and get up to 50% off your first month. That's up to $125 off. Just visit armoire.style/dateable. That is armoire.style, spelled ARMOIRE.style/DATEABLE, and get up to 50% off your first month. And never worry about what to wear again. Try Armoire today.
I don't know about you, but I always struggle with cravings and bloating that time of month and just feel a little off when I get my period. This is something that's been a challenge for me for a very long time, and I recently started taking Hormone Harmony to manage my PMS, and it really supports my hormonal balance and regulation. I feel like since I've been using it, my sleep quality has improved, and it's relieved some of my mood swings. And the biggest benefit, feeling like myself again. That's what women mention over and over in their reviews. And there are 17,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. Women cannot stop talking about it on social media. Literally, a bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. Happy Mammoth, the company that created Hormone Harmony, is dedicated to making women's lives easier. It has 0 sugar and it's gluten-free, dairy-free, non-GMO, and third-party tested. For a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code DATEABLE at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code DATEABLE for 15% off today.
Hi, I'm Yue Xu.
And I'm Julie Krafchick.
We're active daters turned dating insiders.
Here to dive into everything modern dating and relationships.
Welcome to Dateable. Hello, friends.
Welcome back to another episode of Dateable.
We're always happy to have you along with us for the ride, this crazy dateable journey that we're all in. And we all know that even if you're in a relationship, you never stop dating.
Never stop dating. But, you know, the world of dating, if you are single, is quite the challenge, as we all know. So we're excited to bring more resources, great guests, our book, all the good stuff to help you along your way.
And maybe this is not the right place to ask you all this question, but we're so curious. Like, at what phases in your dating life do you like to listen to us the most? Is it like when you're really active in dating, or is it like when you're taking a dating sabbatical? Is it when you're just getting back into dating? We'd just like to know what draws you to our content. Like, what is the phase in your dating life cycle? Right.
I'm always very curious because we hear of a lot of people that were like, I was listening and then I got really frustrated by dating. And I'm like, no, those are the people we want to help the most. So yeah, it's always interesting to hear where people stand.
Yeah, where some of you have said you went through a major breakup and you didn't want to think about dating or talk about dating at all. So you missed a few episodes. It's like, it's very, we just want to know, like, where do you enter our content so we can better serve you for your needs?
Or we've heard the opposite, that when people are in the thick of a breakup, they are like binging every single episode. So it's so person by person. But let us know. We do like to hear because that helps us also tailor our content.
When I listen to dating content the most, you know, I'm thinking back to like my listening habits. I feel like I probably dive in when there is something I just can't crack.
Yeah.
Like, why does this behavior keep happening? Or why do I keep getting this message sent to me? Or what am I doing wrong? Or what can I do differently to get out of this?
Yeah. No, I think when you have a problem, I feel like had Dateable been around when I was dating, when I was like in the thick of a situationship, that's when I would have been tuning in.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we always get asked like, who is Dateable for? because it's about dating. And we like to say it's for everybody, whether you're in a relationship, out of a relationship, going through a transitionship. There's so many stages where we have content for that. But maybe there's a bigger cohort of all of you somewhere in there that's like in this stage of the dating life cycle that we can focus more on.
I think this episode, though, today is a wide-hitting one.
You don't let the word feminist steer you away or towards this content. I think you have to listen to this episode because Lily Womble is our guest and she's all about feminist dating. But it's not, I think, in the sense that you think it is, or it wasn't in the sense that I thought it was. So you just have to listen. It applies to everybody, whether you're female or male identifying, it goes across the board. So who is Lily? She's a feminist dating coach, host of the podcast Date Brazen, and the author of Thank You More, Please.
First of all, the book was amazing. I was really excited to have her on as a guest because I read her book in like 2 hours. I am a fast reader, but this one especially, I just got really into it. And, you know, her subtitle is The Feminist Guide to Breaking Dumb Dating Rules and Finding Love.
So good.
And I think, first of all, could resonate with that. But also she just brings a lot of like her own personal experience. And it's almost like self-help meets memoir. And yeah, really good read.
So this episode in our conversation with Lily, who is this for? This is for anyone who wants to feel more confident and joyful in their dating life and not just be so frustrated and overwhelmed all the time.
Yeah, it's also for anyone who wants to have that main character energy. That's like a big thing that she touts of like, how do you put yourself at the forefront and really own your dating life and let dating revolve around you instead of what we so typically do of let our lives revolve around dating.
Which is very similar to How to Date Like a Feminist. Dating like a feminist is putting you at the forefront of your love life and not succumb to the love crisis that we've been talking about, which is like people giving up on dating, feeling like there's no chance for them to find love. There is a way if you are able to put you as a main character and not let all these other fuckers steer that movie for you.
Yes. And this is also for anyone who wants to say, fuck the patriarchy. It feels good to just say that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When it comes to finding love, I think like one of my favorite parts of this conversation was just like some of the duality that we face, especially as women, but it can be fuck the patriarchy for men too. This is open for everyone. But I think especially as people that identify as women, we're told we should be independent, yet we also want to find love. And is that now not feminist to want to find love? So there's a lot of contradictions that happen. And I loved breaking all of that down because it's a lot of the stuff that we're kind of like afraid to say out loud that we're all thinking.
Yeah, we're in this weird generation of daters where it's like we're still influenced by tradition and the old, yet we want to be aspirational and lead with the new. And there's a lot of just contradictory wants and needs. So some of you, maybe a lot of you, I've certainly felt this, is like, should I feel this way or do I want to feel this way? I don't know anymore.
I think the other big part that you'll get out of this is how to not be limited by your past.
Yeah.
Like so many of us, and, you know, Lily talks about her own experiences, identifying more as like a later bloomer, and then also with roots from the South and like everything that kind of came in. And then she had to be like, is this actually what I want? Or is this who I am today? And build that story based off that.
Yeah, such a great conversation. Thought it was going to go a totally different direction. I have to say, I'm very pleasantly surprised by what we uncovered. There's a lot of a really deep conversation and hopefully help you all get some clarity around how do you make yourself the focus of your love life and stop putting all of the power in the hands of modern dating culture.
I mean, we said on this that it's the perfect complement to our book, but it's out now. So you can get this book today and then be ready for ours when it comes out. But she says one thing a lot that really sticks with me. And I think we've said a variation. We very much think similarly of like, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. Having that in mind as you date, it allows you to stay at the forefront because you're not afraid to scare away people or to scare away the wrong people.
Yes. I love that. Yeah, wonderful conversation. But yes, we also mentioned our book, which is coming out in January of 2025. It's called How to Be Dateable. It's available for pre-order right now. Pre-orders are very important in the publishing industry. Maybe to you, you're like, wait, this book is not coming out till January. What is the point of pre-ordering now? Two main reasons. One is your future self will thank you so much because when this book gets delivered to your door, you're going to say, wow, I don't remember pre-ordering this. What a nice surprise, right? Your future self will thank you. The other main reason is that in publishing, the way that the success of books get measured, a lot of it rides on pre-ordering because it shows anticipation and interest in the book before it is released. It kind of makes sense. And the only way they can measure that is through pre-orders. Just by you saying, hey, publisher, we're really interested in this book, it doesn't move the needle. Like they need to see bottom line numbers. So that really helps us to be put on the map for a lot of these lists, for even like to be featured at a retail store like a Target. Wouldn't that be amazing?
I think it also directly comes back to daters, though, because the more people that can get this book, which is all from distribution, that means the dating pool is that much more dateable and gets it.
Oh, can you imagine? Okay, so people get this book January 28th. How long do you think it will take people to finish a book on average? If they were just to read it straight through without taking days off, let's say like half an hour each day. A week?
I don't know. I'll say there's 9 chapters. 10 if you include like intros. Let's say 10 days.
10 days.
A chapter a day. I think that's fair.
Okay. This is what's my prediction. Okay. I'm putting my psychic hat on. 28th, it gets delivered. It's a Tuesday. Okay. By the 6th of February, 6th or 7th of February, which is Thursday and Friday, people are going to be dating differently. They're going to be on the app saying, I just finished How to Be Dateable. I'm ready to step out of what we're currently doing and rise above modern dating. Who's ready to go? So that weekend of the 6th and 7th, which is the weekend before Valentine's Day, many people are going to be primed to date in a way that's way more dateable than what they're used to before. It's going to be a major revolution that weekend. It's my prediction.
Love it. I love that. I hope it comes true. I know it will come
true. It will
true.
come true.
But yes, this is how we change dating, is get everyone to read this book and, stay tuned all season as we're, getting into things and just getting ready for that reveal. I think the other piece too is it really will hit at different stages of dating, but there's something for everyone in here. Clearly it's geared to people that are looking to find their person, that are in the dating scene currently. But I think if you're like starting to date someone, it's still super useful. In the early stages, very much applicable. And then, of course, who knows what relationship status will be by then.
And speaking of finding your person, if you're like, okay, I pre-ordered the book, it's not coming out for a few months, what can I start doing in the meantime? Well, you're in luck because we are reopening our Finding Your Person program. This is sold out every time we've opened it. We have very limited spots because we have limited resources. In case you couldn't count, there's just 2 of us. It's one, Julie, me, 2. There's totally 2 of us. Sometimes Mojo helps, but he's not very good with dating advice. So this is why there's limited spots and also just a limited period for it to be open. Mm-hmm. And so once it opens and then that registration closes, it's going to be a few months before we reopen again. So if you've been thinking about this program or you're ready to take some action now before our book comes out, this is a perfect opportunity to enroll in this course. It's very interactive. It's very much about doing the self-work and then putting it into practice. You're going to find all the actionable takeaways from our podcast pretty much put into one course for you to just follow along.
Yeah, and it really dives deep to help uncover what's been getting in your way ultimately. And, we're also trying something new this time around. We're calling it Finding Your Person Plus, where we'll also be doing more of one-on-one time. The Finding Your Person comes with 2 sessions with the 2 of us, but Finding Your Person Plus, it'll be more guided. Every week you'll have that session. It will kind of custom tailor the program for you. So if you're interested in learning more about both of them, you can go to dateablepodcast.com/programs and you'll see all the information. And feel free to DM us if you have any questions or email us.
And you got to get on the Plus train. You know, we got Hulu Plus, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, Apple. I mean, everybody has a Plus now. So yeah, we got to Finding Your Person Plus. Got to do it.
I love it. You know, I'm just thinking back to the last call we had with someone that just went through it. As part of the program, there's 2 calls with the 2 of us. One's a midpoint check-in and one is an end of program check-in. In midpoint, she was definitely still like struggling with some stuff. We actually gave some like more tailored advice of, you know, dialing it back a little in ways, which is kind of counter to what you typically hear. But in this case, it made a lot of sense. And the last call that we had, she just felt like a different person. Like she was so overjoyed. She felt calm. She felt less anxiety with dating. She felt ready to take on the world and go meet people, and felt like she was going on much more quality dates, even though she hadn't like quote unquote met her person yet. She felt like the energy was just very different on the dates she was going on. So love hearing those stories. It makes me feel like it's all worth it to do programs like this.
You will surprise yourself by going through this program. You know, you never know what's going to uncover for you. We've had people be in the middle of the program and be inspired to take a sabbatical, not from dating, from work. You know, like, oh, I realize I haven't prioritized my personal life and myself. So I'm taking the sabbatical so I can work on myself. I mean, incredible. This program just unlocks all the shit, all the noise that we infiltrate our lives with and that we don't even realize is just noise. It will help you clear all of that out of the way and just get crystal clear about what it is that you want in dating.
We hear this a lot, is like sometimes people are like, well, don't we have all the podcasts? Like, why do I need a program? Or why do I need a book? And it's like, I think there is something about the structure and giving it more of the cadence that we've seen time after time help people really push through these blocks and, you know, look at dating differently and approach dating differently. And like it took us 8 years to accumulate all the knowledge. We're delivering this to people in 10 days to read a book, or 6 weeks to go through a program that's more intensive, which is still a fraction of the time it took the 2 of us.
Oh, I mean, seriously. And we can't really scale the 2 of us. We're human beings. So we get asked all the time, can you recommend an episode about this is what I'm going through? And I wish we could answer all of those requests. But if you enroll in this program, you have direct access to us. We can give you these recommendations based on the knowledge that we have from almost a decade.
I love when we're on a call with someone and we're like, you need this episode.
Yeah.
They're not even asking. We're like, you need this one.
Yes. Here's a playlist. It's built in my head, but I'm picturing it for you.
Okay. So dateablepodcast.com/programs. Make sure to jump on it.
I know the program is open now. Oh, yes. Yes. Get on it now before it fills up. Because again, limited spots. We can't be everywhere right now, and we need to sleep. So yeah, snatch those spots while they're still available.
Okay. Well, before we go into the episode, just a reminder again, ratings and reviews, leave them, helps so much. We did a call out a couple weeks ago that we would start reading reviews if you pre-order the book. So I wanted to shout out one of our listeners who wrote one. So this is from Lucas. Yay. Personable, honest, funny, and informative. Julie and Yue provide all this and more. These cool ladies slay dateable. So excited to read their new book dropping in January. Yes, I pre-ordered it already. Thank you, Julie and Yue, for keeping me dateable.
Oh, Lou. What a great one. And thank you for calling us cool. And using the word slay. I use
slay.
Cool and
love
slay all in one sentence. I feel so on trend. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, keep them in. We'll read other ones as they come in, especially if they're as entertaining as that one. And it, again, helps so much. Just continue to get great guests for this podcast.
Yay. Thanks, Lou.
Okay. Well, before we go into it, let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors.
I love my shower time. See, I'm an evening showerer because I like to wash off the day before I hop into bed. And now with Osea's new Ondaria algae body wash, my shower routine has turned into a tropical paradise with its iconic all-natural uplifting citrusy scent. This body wash infuses your shower with the healing power of the sea, formulated with nourishing, nutrient-rich Ondaria seaweed, glycerin, and an oil blend. Also, its pH balance, hydrating formula doesn't strip skin, leaving it feeling soft and renewed. I'm personally a big fan of the gel-like texture. It just feels really nice in my hands, and it's beautiful, rich lather. And the all-natural citrusy scent that smells so vibrant. You just feel like you just went, I don't know, surfing? Even I don't surf at all. It leaves my skin feeling so wonderful and, can I just even say glamorous? Upgrade your shower with clean, vegan face and body care from Osea. Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code DATEABLE at OseaMalibu.com. You'll get free samples with every order and free shipping on orders over $60. Head to OSEAMalibu.com and use the code DATEABLE for 10% off.
We're officially entering fall, and I don't know about you, but this is by far my favorite season. Between pumpkin spice lattes and sweater weather, it's the best. And Quince makes it easy to shift my wardrobe from summer to fall with high-quality items that don't blow my budget. I'm obsessed with the tan cashmere sweater I got from them. It's one of their signature items, and it's just so soft and luxurious. And $50. That's unheard of for cashmere. And the quality is to the same level of luxury brands that cost a heck lot more. All Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. And that's because Quince partners directly with top factories, cutting out the cost to the middleman and passes the savings on to us. Make switching season a breeze with Quince's high-quality closet essentials. Go to quince.com/dateable for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/dateable to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/dateable. Okay, let's hear it from Lily about dating like a feminist.
Lily, so nice to have you on Dateable.
I'm so glad to be here.
I cannot wait to dive into what it means to date like a feminist because we have so many questions.
We often talk about the patriarchy and how it's really screwed us up in love, but then people can't pinpoint exactly what it is about patriarchy. So can you tell us some of the biggest ways the patriarchy has really impacted the way we date?
That's such a great question. It is hard to pinpoint because I think it's sort of seeped into every facet of how we were raised, like what decisions we make potentially if we're not really thoughtful about it. So some like very common examples of how I saw patriarchy had really fucked up my love life when I was settling again and again is when I was like a new adult and felt like a complete late bloomer. And I had a ton of shame about that. That shame was a result and symptom of patriarchal conditioning that told me that being single was behind being coupled. That's one example. And why is patriarchy interested in women specifically being coupled and specifically married to cisgender men? Because that means more labor for the workforce. Like that means that the status quo continues. That means marriage has not been a very kind institution toward women inside marriages. And in fact, historically, rights have sort of been stripped away from women in marriage. I'm married. It doesn't have to be an oppressive force. It can be a choice in agency with the right partner. Both and I think that like shame about not being coupled yet was a symptom of patriarchal conditioning.
The other side of that spectrum is I remember some of my friends who were early bloomers also being reprimanded because they were seen as slutty or they were seen as easy.
Yes.
But it just shows you that there's no winning either way. All our worth is all defined by the patriarchy, whether you're early bloomer or late bloomer.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that gets us that we're curious your take on is this like staying in your feminine or being in your masculine.
Oh my God.
From the credible source of
I know.
TikTok.
Thank
Yes. What is your take on that? Because to me, that screams like patriarchies, gender roles, all that.
The people who buy into the divine feminine, divine masculine things scare me. I
Thank
feel
you.
that I feel I don't understand. If that's you, then God bless. We all get to follow our own path.
Yep.
But
You do you.
And if it resonates, if it's powerful, whatever, you do you. To me, when we say like that phrase, like you just need to be in your divine feminine, feels more often than not like it's a weapon used against single women, telling them to not want what they want, telling them that their desires are repellent, that they are wrong for being who they are and being socialized how they were socialized. And I've heard dating coaches tell single people who then come to me and say, this dating coach told me that I'm single because I'm not in my divine feminine enough. And what the fuck does that even mean? And I think that it's important to notice when we are being forced into the cage of binary in any sense. And I think that that divine feminine masculine conversation is like sort of forcing a binary onto our very squishy human, imperfect, desirous form. What do y'all think?
Throw up. Seriously, we get so grossed out whenever we get comments or pushback about, people really just need to be more in their feminine or be more in their masculine. But you don't see this pushed upon men. You don't hear men being told to be in their divine feminine.
I don't know. I think they actually are a lot of times like told to be more masculine. I think that is equally as detrimental to them too.
Exactly.
Right. That idea of like, you need to go in this box more in order to get what you want is hurting us all. I do think that the intention in some cases might be to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt for women who are so used to doing unnecessary emotional labor every single day, who are socialized to caregive, who are socialized to muscle their way through and hyper hustle. Maybe the intention is to like, okay, allow, take a deep breath. You don't have to do all of that work. But I think the impact is, oh, I need to be in my divine feminine, so let me step all the way back and like let the man, which is very heteronormative too. I'm bisexual, so I'm always thinking about like, how is this advice like very hetero focused as well? But I think that like it's so much more useful to think about the new relationship stage as a co-creation. As opposed to, I've got to follow these rules and be in my feminine because then I'm going to attract a high quality man. No, what if you just accepted that you get to want what you want, that the right person is going to show up with you and co-create the right connection.
Yes.
And that releases so much of that pressure of like, I've got to do it right in order to attract the.
Well, then you also just become someone you're not. And I think that's what's so detrimental of it. Actually, in your book, you brought up like how your mom told you at one point that you were too much and it'll be hard to attract a husband. I mean, I think a lot of women can relate to that. I think we've all gotten messages like you need to be a certain way to ultimately get the prize of someone wanting you, which is exactly what you're saying, going back to the patriarchy. Like, you're obviously married now. Like, how did you get out of this mindset?
Well, it was hard won. Let me tell you. And I talk about this in my book in detail. I grew up in the Deep South, so I saw that a woman's worth was so deeply tied to her relationship status with a cisgender man. I saw in wedding vows a woman vowing to be subservient to her husband.
Wow.
On that day. Can you believe?
My eyes are like, what?
And then, by the way, it's not just in the 90s when I saw that happening. Like, I got engaged about 3 years ago, and my extended relatives laid hands on us, which I am not religious anymore, and said, Lord, please help Lily follow Chris's leadership.
Leadership?
This is not just the 90s. This is like 3 years ago. Like, that is still how a lot of people are operating, is like this power over women need to be subservient in order to belong and survive in relationship.
That's nuts.
Wow. I feel extremely grateful that I don't experience that. Like, thank God. I'm already dealing with my own shit. Like, to have that kind of pressure outside of it, that would just be,
I was told by extended relatives that Bill cheated on Hillary because she pursued her own career.
I've had many of my parents' Chinese friends say the same thing. A woman can't be too powerful in her career because it will chase the man away.
So clearly you're not like that. Like, how did you like not let this stuff get to you?
I think that, it was this constant fight and battle in my own head. The cognitive dissonance was insane. Like, I was, this young feminist in Birmingham, Alabama, who was trying to like advocate for change in the little pockets that I was in, while also facing the very real reality that I was treated as weird and too much all the time by my peers, by my family, for being sensitive, for being a leader, for being kind of intense. And so, I knew cognitively that they were wrong, but emotionally, I responded to that socialization by shrinking my needs, by accepting the bare minimum from people around me, by expecting that I didn't deserve to even be in equitable friendship, like shrinking my needs even there. And so I was in this high school relationship. He literally broke up with me, telling me that I was, quote, too much.
Ugh.
And then I went to college. I didn't have any experiences except my one experience of making out with this guy. It was really intense and weird. And then the next day he told me like, oh, I cheated on my girlfriend with you. And I was like, what's happening? Why am I so cursed in this area of my life? I feel so powerful in other areas.
Yeah.
And then I become an adult. I don't have much adult experience. I haven't had sex yet. I've just deconstructed this evangelical Christian love waits identity. I was like, okay, cool. I'm ready to get it in. I start dating and I meet men again and again who like ask me out and then who 2 days later are like, never mind, I'm not ready to date. Literally 2 men separately. And this was in San Francisco. I go out with, I say like, hey, I'd love to hook up. I actually haven't had sex before. Like, I was just honest. I was just putting it out there. And then they're like, cool, let's go. Like, let's have a great time. And then like they both changed their mind.
What?
Oh.
They said no to sex?
I know. I ingested all of this information and I made it mean that I was wrong. More confirmation of the too much. And so I moved to New York. I was having the time of my life, like living my best, going to shows, like having 5 side hustles, 15 jobs. I just left a career in the feminist nonprofit advocacy space. But I came to New York and I was like, I'm going to date. I'm going to do it. And meanwhile, I had just gotten a side hustle at a matchmaking firm. And I became a really good matchmaker because my EQ was off the charts for other people. And I was like setting up dates, 399 dates, over 1,000 phone calls with potential dates for my clients. Like, I was swiping on all of the apps professionally. And in my own love life, I had just matched with this guy on Bumble who met everything I said I wanted on my checklist. And we went on one date and I was like, oh, you want to be with me? We're in love now.
Oh.
And he was like on paper a really good fit, but then emotionally met none of my needs. But I thought that was normal because I thought I was too much. Then asked me to be in an open relationship on a trip to Paris that we were on. After we had decided to be monogamous, I was like, well, this is what it is. Relationships take work. Like, even though I don't want this, like nobody else wants to be with me. And my parents were getting a divorce at the same time. So I was like, well, maybe relationships just are hard. And maybe I'm just too much. I got to shrink. So it was this wild dichotomy of setting up dates for people, saying, you deserve so much better. And in my own love life, accepting literal less than crumbs.
Why? Why was there that disconnect?
Because I could logically see that other people deserve happiness. I could logically see that feminism needs to be the center of our value system and like people get to be in good relationships, but I'm broken. Like emotionally, I felt like I'm broken. I'm the reason my love life hasn't succeeded until now. I must change something about myself in order to survive. And I think that that's a very common cognitive dissonance that a lot of people have, especially if you've seen all of your friends get married around you and you're like the one single one as I was.
I am relating so much to all that you said. I think this is why I read your book in like 2 hours. I think it's like my story isn't 100% the same as yours because like conservative background in the South, I don't have that, but I had the same stuff come up. I think this is so common in women of just like this feeling of like, I'm not the cookie cutter of like who you see in media or like around of what people that fall in love look like and like all that. Like I had a lot of that stuff come up for me.
Absolutely. So I think the way that I was able to move through it is with therapy. I mean, therapy really changed my life. I finally was talking to someone who was validating my life experience and helping me see patterns of shrinking in a different way. So like with therapy, when I got the courage to break it off with this person who was my first time having sex, like he was my first adult love, like all of these firsts, I broke it off with him. And then I looked around and I was like, now what? Because I've seen how I thought I trusted myself back then, but I settled again and again. So now what? How do I never fucking settle again? My therapist hadn't dated in 30 years. She was like, download another app? Like,
helpful. You're like,
why don't you just put yourself out there? I was like, okay. My friends, I don't know if y'all resonate, but my friends were just like, let me swipe for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Let me make over your dating profile. Why don't you download this app? Because I just met somebody great, right? It's like I'm being in a dating casino where like she's at the craps table and she's like, I just won big at this table. Come over and play. And then I go and like waste my money and time.
The odds are good.
It's
I
like,
just
it's
lost.
Not,
yeah.
no, I just lost. And now you think I'm a loser because you
Right.
won and I didn't. Like, what?
But on the extra layer of that, Lily, is also like the people who are in relationships and have found someone, they're saved.
Yes,
You know, they're on this
They're out
island
of
now.
jail.
And they're like,
yes.
yeah. And they're like, come on, you can get to our island if you just swim harder.
But I think that goes back to the patriarchy bit, right? Of like
Absolutely.
this feeling of like, if you are chosen, especially as women, like that is the ultimate measure of success.
Yes, absolutely. And I think deconstructing that idea for myself at this time of a man telling me that I am beautiful, that I'm worthy is like not actually a metric for any type of success in my life.
Right.
And I had to unlearn that belief. And I really, through that, deconstructed my own like internalized homophobia, realized I was bi, like came out in my mid-late 20s, like seriously, all of this was connected to me. So then I looked at matchmaking and I was the third most successful matchmaker, quote unquote, at this national firm.
Dang.
Out of 160 matchmakers. And, you know, success is defined differently by different matchmaking companies. Success for this one meant, do they go on a second date? And I knew that I needed something much deeper than a first date. I knew that I never wanted to settle again. So I started to create the solution that I needed for myself. I started to learn the skill of self-compassion. I started to unlearn the idea that I was too much by practicing self-compassion. I started to get to know my own essence-based preferences because this guy, this ex, was everything I said I wanted on paper.
Yeah.
But how did I want to feel in the right relationship? What if I had the permission to feel belonging and safety? And if I had the permission to feel held and like fully celebrated, like what would that be like? I started to claim all of those essence-based preferences. And then I started having fun in my dating life. I was like giving my number to cuties. I was flirting up a storm. I felt free. I was in my main character energy for the first time in my life, in my love life.
Good.
And the bonus of that was that I met the love of my life, Chris, who I'm now married to. And we've been together 7 years. And I don't know if we would have gotten together had I not done my own essence-based preferences work or self-compassion, because I probably would have gotten in my own way with rigidity and fear. And so this was preparing me to be in this relationship. And then for my matchmaking clients, I started to coach them on the side, and they started to find better dates for themselves than I or anybody else could find for them. So about 7.5 years ago, I broke up with matchmaking for good to start Date Brazen, my company. And now I'm a feminist dating coach for hundreds of badass humans to create joyful love lives that lead to extraordinary.
Love that.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I want to go in deeper because you said so many things.
Go.
Like,
Let's go.
But starting, I think, with self-compassion, because I think this is a big one. And this is
huge.
a buzzword that you hear all the time is just show yourself self-compassion, show yourself self-love. But what does that actually look like? What were you doing?
We need to define the terms. We need to define this relationship with
please.
self-compassion because it feels similarly to like, just feel your feelings. It's like, what? Like, I am feeling my feelings. I feel terrible. Yeah.
Right. Thanks.
So self-compassion is not just a fluffy phrase. And also I want to level set, like as a high achiever, ambitious hustler in my past, I thought of self-compassion as like going easy on myself and like, oh, isn't it so great if you're going easy on yourself? I thought of it as slowing down unnecessarily. Do y'all resonate?
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Being lazy.
being lazy. Like, I'm not going to get what I want if I'm compassionate toward myself because that's for suckers or like whatever I was thinking.
Yeah.
So until I actually learned that scientifically, there's a study in 2014 done out of Stanford that found that self-compassion, that practice has been proven to reduce cortisol and to increase resilience. And that was very interesting to me because my stress was high all the time. I was actually struggling with panic attacks, struggling with anxiety. So it was pretty revolutionary, this idea of there are 3 pillars of self-compassion as defined by Dr. Kristen Neff. And I had to learn them for myself in very hard-won efforts. So the 3 pillars are, number 1, the kindest, most real, of course. Of course I'm struggling with this. Of course. Instead of being like, get over it. Get over it, Lily.
Yeah.
Stop talking to yourself like that. Stop. Or instead of engaging toxic positivity, which is where a lot of people go, which is just like, it's going to be okay.
You're doing great.
Like, people don't think of that as toxic positivity because they think of it as just like, oh, positive thoughts or even affirmations. But those don't feel true to you right now. Then it's trying to force yourself into a pair of jeans that doesn't fit. It's trying to force yourself into like a box that doesn't. And it's okay that you're not there.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're just a human with a human brain. So the kindest, most real, of course, why does it make total sense why I would feel this way? I was raised in a patriarchal culture that told me I was behind. Of course I feel behind. It doesn't make it true, but of course.
I like that.
Kindest, most real, of course. Number 2, belonging over isolation. So like this idea of shame is telling us that we're alone, that we're wrong for feeling this way, that we are, belonging actually reduces the effect of shame. And belonging is a level setting force, a subtle proofing force that says like, I'm not the only person that feels this way. Especially if you feel like a late bloomer, it's like, I'm not the only person that feels this way. It actually is pretty normal to feel this way. And then the third step of self-compassion is thoughts, not facts. So taking inventory of like, wow, my brain is serving up a lot of sentences that are survival stories. That I'm broken, that I'm too much. These are thoughts, not facts. Mindfulness doesn't have to be a 10-minute meditation. It can literally just be noticing a thought when you're having it and saying, oof, Lily, that's a really hard thought.
Yeah.
So with those 3 pillars, it really became a practice of like, I could journal about these things. I could write myself a self-compassion letter. I could bring these pillars up in my brain when I was on a walk. Doing them imperfectly even really helped me to move forward.
That's so helpful.
Yeah, because you're creating the construct of your own reality. So if your construct is all negative and they're just not factual, yet you believe in them, then that's going to be your reality if you keep thinking those thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And they've done studies on the top 1% of athletes versus like the top 25% and what the difference is. It's not the number of reps. It's not how they eat. It's not how they sleep. It's how they think.
Yeah.
And I hope we can take that into dating too, because the way we think determines the outcome of everything we do in life.
And I would add the way that, absolutely the way we think and the way that we process emotion.
Yes.
That like feelings are literally like poop. They're bodily functions that we need to acknowledge and allow to pass with the practice of self-compassion in order to build new neural pathways, in order to think differently. And I think that's the piece that people miss because they have this fallacy that like, oh, if I feel my feelings, which literally is just like putting a hand on your heart, noticing where it is in your body, saying, I'm willing to feel anything to be with you, which is one of my favorite thoughts by Simone Seol, and take it like 2 minutes and just like acknowledging it, noticing what the shape is, what the color is, just like breathing into it and using those self-compassion frameworks to like let it pass so that you can build a new neural pathway of it might be possible that I haven't met everyone yet. It might be possible that more is possible than I realize.
I love this. And I think people should listen to this on repeat because I think so many times like we're told just like be optimistic, be hopeful with dating.
Yeah.
You'll get through it. But it's like what you were saying, Yue, it's like, how do you do that? Like I think the mindset is so important, but it's always so ambiguous. So I think you just gave us some like really solid ways to get there. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Essence-based preferences, the next buzzword.
Yes,
we want to go into that.
Okay. So what most people do is one of 2 things. There are 2 opposite poles. Over here, this pole over here is overfunctioning. That is saying, I want somebody 6'5", blue eyes. I'm looking for a man in finance.
Yeah.
In finance.
Which, by the way, I'm loving working out to that song. I'm like doing my mountain climbers to that, like, yes. But no, that's classic overfunctioning, which is a response to stimuli. You can either overfunction or underfunction, or you can kind of meet in the middle, which is where we're going eventually. But overfunctioning is like rigidity. It's what a lot of people think of when they think of picky, but I think of picky is like pick with a Y at the end. You get to pick what you want. Rigidity, overfunctioning, is a way to try to protect yourself, especially if you've had hard dating experiences and you think, I don't ever want that again, so I need to have this list. But really, the list doesn't protect you. The list keeps you shut off from opportunity. That rigid list.
I mean, we have something that we call like the settling paradox, where people like won't settle for someone that's like under 6'5", but will settle for a situationship. It doesn't logically make sense, right?
That's so true. That's so
Doesn't
true.
make any sense.
I can't wait for your book.
Thanks
Love
for the
it.
plug.
Love it.
I can't wait. I can't wait. So then on the other end of the spectrum, we have underfunctioning, which again is a response to stimuli that is saying, oh, I just want somebody nice with a job. Oh, I'm not looking for too much. Oh, I don't need too much, like kind, funny, smart, like whatever. Like I can be with anybody. I just haven't found anybody, right? That is a response based in scarcity, based in fear that nobody is going to be for you. So you need to open the door all the way, which is actually denying yourself your agency and denying yourself what you really want. So coming in the middle is with essence-based preferences, which is claiming what you want, giving yourself permission. I get to want what I want, but knowing how you want to feel with each of those preferences. So when you use how you feel as a metric, you will never, ever settle. For example, for like personality traits, values, I have this whole exercise of like defining, because everybody's love life like needs and wants are unique. Kind to you is very different than kind to me.
Yeah.
And so claiming, okay, kind, and then asking yourself questions like, okay, what does that mean to me? How does that show up in the world? What do I feel like with somebody who's kind? What kind of friendships do they have? Suddenly you have this robust definition that is clear, that is rooted in like, here's how I want to feel around this person. And the word kind can deepen to like compassionately curious. Or for me, my essence-based preferences, it's like a root word and then a definition that is bespoke to me. And mine were joyfully nerdy. So I wanted my future partner to be able to sing or dance at the drop of a hat, made me feel belonging, made me feel like I was this like person who existed. Like I got to be celebrated in my weirdness and my intensity, and I got to celebrate this person in their weirdness and intensity. Joyfully nerdy, resilient as hell, growth-oriented, learning about themselves, interested in the world around them and people around them, and then like compassionately curious was one of mine. Like they don't ever let somebody sit alone at a party. They're like, they're curious about people. They're engaged, they're compassionate. I feel this sense of safety, emotional safety and belonging. When I knew those things, I knew that Chris met the way I wanted to feel from our first date. It's how I had no doubt that this person was somebody that I wanted to continue seeing. And I think that that self-doubt that so many people experience, is this person right for me? Is it not right? Is it settling? Is it a slow burn or is it a spark? Essence-based preferences answer all of those questions very clearly so that you're never in overthinking again.
That just brings so much clarity to what we're looking for. And all those words you use are so specific. You know, they're just not like something generic. Like a lot of people say, I just want someone nice. I just want someone nice. And I was sitting around the table with a bunch of girlfriends the other day. Yeah, exactly. And one of the women, she said, you know, I'm just so sick of dating. I just want to find someone nice. And another friend said, what do you mean by nice? I mean, the janitor down the street is nice. Do you want me to bring him over? Like, he's really nice. And so what my friend ended up asking her was, what do you want this person to spark in you? And I was like, wow, that's such a good question. Like, what is it that this person inspires in you? And immediately her eyes lit up and she said, oh, I want this person to spark this playful side of me that I kind of lost in recent years. And I really want to get that back. So that was so specific. And she's like, oh shit, I don't want just someone nice. Actually, I don't want just someone nice. There's so much more to that.
I love that because it's going beneath the surface. Like, how did you unpack that those are the ones you wanted? Like, what types of questions did you ask yourself to get there?
I love this question. I have so many questions that I asked myself, and they're all in the book. I'll list them.
Great.
What does that word mean to me? So like you brain dump, there's a process in the book, but like basically you brain dump what you want, what values and personality traits. Then you go through and you sort of group them. Some of them are, belong together, like kind, compassionate. And then you say, okay, for each of these words, what does this mean to me? What does somebody who is fill in the blank value? What kind of relationships do they have? How do they behave at a party? How does this word, when I'm in the presence of somebody who has this, make me feel?
I love that.
And then suddenly you have like a more robust love life vocabulary. And I help you in the book come up with 3 to 5 root words or phrases, and then your bespoke definition for each. And then for logistical preferences like age range, height range, like people get to want what they want. But for each of those, you got to put on an essence-based lens as well. So for height range specifically, people say, okay, I want this height range. I'm like, cool. You get to want what you want. How do you want to feel with someone who is in that height range?
Right.
What they'll usually say is, I want to feel attracted. Great. You get to feel attracted. That's an essence-based preference. You want to feel held. You want to feel like they've got this sort of this like sense of safety. And I say, amazing. Have you ever felt that way with someone who is not in that height range? And then inevitably they'll say, oh yeah, I have. I say, cool. Now you know that you can be open to being surprised by the right person and how they show up, and you know how you want to feel. So it's not actually about a height range that is settling versus not settling. It's a matter of how you want to feel
Right.
that will allow you to find the right person.
I think it goes back to like unpacking patriarchy too, right? Like as
Yeah.
you're doing this, obviously it's like, what do you want to feel? But also like, what have you been fed?
Absolutely.
You know, I feel like
Yes.
this line that like someone tall is going to be protective, like that's what we've
I
been
know.
told. But like, where's that coming from? And one, do you need that? And then two, like, is someone your height also not going to do that? Like, there's so much to unpack.
I think it's also about, I call it rooting out the shoulds in the
Yeah.
process. Like after
Yeah.
you do all this, then you got to look back and say like, okay, which of this belongs to my mom?
Yes.
Which of this
Right.
belongs to my teacher in second grade who said this one thing and I ingested it and made it mean that I need it, you know? And so rooting out the shoulds, one of my clients used this and said, at first, I need somebody who has a graduate degree, bare minimum. I was like, okay, cool. You get to what you want. What does that feel like to you? Oh, well, I feel like I want them to value education. I feel like we have a similar value system. I feel like I'd be proud of them. And then she said something that was so interesting. She was like, and I know my dad would be proud of them too. I was like, whoa, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
What is that about? She's like, oh, well, my dad, invested in all this money for, his kids' education. And it was so important to him. This is so good what she said, because it was so rich with information. I've been single for so long that the person that I bring back to my parents, I want him to impress them because I feel like they think I'm so behind that I want this waiting time to be, quote, worth it to them.
Oh my God.
No
We've
longer
heard
about
that
her.
so much.
Yep.
Like, I think that is something that's like the fact that she even admitted it. Like, I think a lot of us like don't admit that. I know for me, I feel like I've had those thoughts before and it was like hard to actually even verbalize that.
Yeah, I mean, that was in the midst of a session where we'd gone deep for an hour and, it was like, oh, wow, I just realized that. But that's what can come up when you're intentionally being asked these questions. It's why I love my book and why every chapter ends with messy homework with a series of reflection questions and to do imperfectly, to get to beneath the surface of your shoulds, to like free yourself.
Yeah.
That's what intersectional feminist dating is to me, is noticing how different forces of oppression have impacted how you show up in the world and how you've been impacted, and how can you both liberate yourself from those structures of oppression that have been actively harming you, potentially by wanting less or by telling you to be less or by telling you to show up differently. And then how can you look outward and bring in your collective along with you?
Yeah.
Give your friends permission to want what they want and explore this beneath the surface as well.
I want to dive into this even more, but before we do, let's take a quick break to hear from our partners.
Do you ever feel like you want to enjoy the little things in life a little more? Really stop and savor the moment? Well, Via Gummies can really help with that. Slowing things down to be in the present. Trusted by over 250,000 customers, Via's hemp products are the Swiss Army knife of wellness. Need to chill out after a long day? There's a Via gummy for that. Dealing with anxiety or stress? There's a gummy for that. Want to set the mood in the bedroom? Oh yeah, there's a gummy for that, because Via has developed a unique blend of pleasure-enhancing, libido-strengthening herbs and a medium dose of THC all into one mind-blowing gummy called High Love. Their best-selling High Love gummy is my go-to because it awakens my senses and increases blood flow, making me feel so present in the moment. So if you're over 21, head to viahemp.com and use the code DATEABLE to receive 15% off. That's VIIAHEMP.com and use the code DATEABLE at checkout. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Take your passion and pleasure to a whole new level with High Love from Via Hemp.
You may have heard me mention in our newsletter that I'm in the process of planning a trip to Italy, and I don't want to be that American tourist that doesn't know any Italian. What better way than to use Rosetta Stone, the most trusted learning program available on desktop or as an app that truly immerses you in the language you want to learn. Rosetta Stone is the trusted expert for 30 years and millions of users with 25 languages offered. The whole process just feels intuitive, like you're picking up the language naturally, first with words, then phrases, and then sentences. Their true accent feature even gives you feedback on your pronunciation, something I may even need sometimes in English. This is an absolute steal right now. With 50% off, your lifetime membership includes all 25 languages, so you have this for any and all trips you need in life. So don't put off learning that language. There's no better time than right now to get started. Dateable listeners get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership for 50% off. Visit rosettastone.com artifact.com/today. That's 50% off unlimited access to 25 language courses for the rest of your life. Redeem your 50% off at rosettastone.com/today today. Guys, when I found out that Artifact Uprising was going to be one of our sponsors, I lost my mind because I've literally done all my holiday shopping through them for the last couple of years, and the gifts are always a massive hit. Artifact Uprising is a Colorado-based company that sells premium quality, customizable photo goods for your digital photos. They want to help you preserve your meaningful moments this holiday season. Whether you want to say I love you with the perfect gift, display favorite memories in your home, or connect with loved ones throughout the year, they have a product you can personalize. I've gotten photo books, calendars, and scrapbooks, and they are always simply beautiful and always a hit because of how personalized they feel. Like I mentioned, I've gotten many gifts over the years, but I kind of wanted my own photo book about having that physical memento to put in your home. I decided to make a photo book of me and my partner's first year together, and we have just so many photos, but it was easy to go through them, and the book came out beautifully. And who knows, maybe one day we can share it with our future children to show them how young and crazy their parents once were. Artifact Uprising makes it easy to tell your story. Through the end of the year, Dateable listeners can give Artifact Uprising a try and get 20% off for new customers or 15% off if you purchased before. Just visit artifactuprising.com and use the code Dateable through December 31st.
I have a very specific question for you because the questions in your book are very helpful. Helps me with clarity around what's mine and what's my mom's, what's society's. There's one part I'm really grappling with, and I think some of my girlfriends feel the same way. It's this want to be desired and trying to figure out if that's part of the patriarchy. Is that like the pick-me culture? Or is that like my true essence of wanting to feel desired? How do you reconcile those two opposing feelings?
So what does feeling desired mean to you?
Really just for someone to be wanted.
To be wanted, what does that feel like to be wanted?
To feel desirable, to feel sexy, to feel attractive. Yeah. Are those feelings? I don't even know.
Yeah, sure.
That's not
Yeah.
a feeling.
What would it mean about you if someone found you desirable, attractive, sexy? What do you think your brain is making that mean?
See, that's where the shame comes in. It's like, oh, I've been chosen. I've been chosen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone specifically chose me.
Yeah. So I hear a mixture of you're making yourself wrong for wanting what you want. You may be equating, like, I just want to feel desired with that means they have all the power and choice, when actually it's this like, you get to choose them too. So maybe it's not, oh, I want to feel desired, and is that a pick-me culture thing? Maybe it's I'm over-indexing on thinking about the importance of them choosing me. Maybe I get to think about what would it mean for me to choose them too, and for it to be a co-creation.
I get to pick the person who desires me.
That's a given.
Right.
Them desiring you is a bare minimum for connection romantically.
Yeah.
Like, what if that were the status quo? You know, like what if it was like, yeah, I desire myself. I am desirable. The right people will desire me. And I get to choose someone that I want to grow with and be with and choose wholeheartedly myself too.
Love that.
I think there's nothing wrong with wanting to feel like chosen. Like, obviously, it can't be done at like all accords, but this is where I think I battle with this. It's like no one wants that to be like the reason why you're pushing something forward or it's eating at your self-esteem. But at the end of the day, a relationship, you are choosing each other. So there is an aspect that you are choosing. Like, that is a thing. I think I agree with you, Lily. It has to be a co-creation and not like, oh my God, I'm trying to be so desirable so this person picks me. I think there's like a big difference between those two.
I think that a lot of single people who might be stuck in this conundrum of like, am I being pick me?
Yeah.
Am I Meredith Grey saying like, you know, pick me, choose me, want me? But really, I think that that's like, what if the right person made themselves a parent and like their interest in you and them choosing you was apparent, and you didn't have to like, let's just assume that and then assume your agency and being able to choose somebody else. Like, yeah, don't judge yourself for wanting what you want and assume that the right person is going to show up, and there's nothing wrong with that. Friendship is similar, as two friends have to choose each other.
Yeah.
You do have an equal, like, okay, we have to figure out our communication styles. We have to figure out like, do I want to hang out with you at this time? Do I want a vacation with you? Like, you're choosing each other. Why is romantic love any different?
It's not. But we have like so much shame with it. I think for me, like before I met my partner, I didn't use the word choose, but I did use the word prioritize. That was a big one for me. It's like I want someone that prioritizes me as I do for them. We had this episode that we did with Connor Beaton, and he actually, I think, is how it clicked for me what feeling meant. So I think before I was always like, oh, feeling like I'm so like crazy in love, or I'm so excited when I'm around them, or I feel chemistry even though it was anxiety. Like that was what I thought feeling meant. But I think with him, I was going through a situation kind of like how you were just live coaching UA. And I had this person that was great on paper, you know, everything lined up, but he could not make an hour to meet up with me, even though he claimed he wanted to so badly. And I remember like asking Connor and being like, is he just emotionally unavailable? And he's like, hold up. We don't need to dissect if he's emotionally unavailable or not. How do you feel about this? And I'm like, you know, I feel a knot in my stomach. I don't feel good. I don't feel happy. And like, he's like, that's the sign. It's listening to your body. And I think that was a huge breakthrough for me of the difference of what feeling actually meant. Not just, I want to feel this way, but like, how do I actually feel like in myself? And then like when I met my partner, I always felt at ease. And that was like a huge green light for me.
Absolutely. I mean, that's so beautiful. It's Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett coined the term emotional granularity, which means like when I'm able to recognize what emotion and feeling is happening in my body and I'm able to name it, you are that much more likely to move through that experience with agency versus if you are like, I don't know, I guess I should feel good, but I don't. Like you're not touching down on like what's happening in your stomach. But when you did, you had more information and you were more empowered to make a decision based in your self-trust.
Maybe it's the language. Like the prioritize me sounds like empowering, where like I want to feel desirable feels like shameful in some ways.
See, this is where I get so conflicted because I always bring up the example of my ex 3 exes ago. We didn't have sex for a year. He prioritized me.
Yeah.
He made time for me, you know, and we spent a lot of time together, but he didn't desire me. And that's what was
That's really painful.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for my next relationship, that was like the number one thing I looked for was someone who really desired me. But then, you know, there were other things lacking. Now I'm kind of like, is that part of my past conditioning that maybe I should try to shed? And prioritization should be more of the focal point? Or should I really lean into this desirability aspect?
What do you want your sex life to feel like when you start seeing someone new?
Well, I know sex life is always good when I start seeing someone new. It's amazing. Okay. It's always good. Even with the guy I didn't have sex for a year, our sex life in the first 6 months was off the charts. It was so great. But I think it's just sustaining that throughout the years is what has been challenging.
How do you want it to feel?
So I give this example, and I've given this example before. With that ex, I would come out of the shower naked and he wouldn't even look up at me. I want to be able to walk around naked in front of my partner and have him just really look at me, just to desire me. Like,
yes.
Wow, this beautiful naked body is in front of me.
Yeah. Okay, great. And, you know, if you say like, okay, great, you get to expect that and want that from the right partner, what comes up for you?
That confidence. Like to really feel empowered in my body in front of the person I trust.
Do you feel that way without a partner in front of you?
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Thank you. More please to that. I fucking love that.
Yes, exactly.
So where's the judgment coming in?
It's the previous partners who really made me feel small.
Yeah.
And I hate giving them that power because I feel extremely powerful by myself.
Okay, so have you had a little conversation with that younger version of you?
Julie, this goes back to what I was doing a few weeks ago where I cried every day. I was at this Mind Valley conference and every day I was like confronting your younger self. Yeah, I cried a lot thinking about that. It was just all the shame and guilt and abandonment and all of it had to come up. But yeah, probably have to do a little bit more work in that category.
I, in my past relationships, made a lot of choices that I wouldn't make again. And in some lower moments, I remember being in fucking Paris with this man that I loved, sitting across from him. It was our first night. And after deciding we were going to be monogamous, he looks at me and he's like, Lily, we need to be open or I can't do this. And it's our first night in Paris. I put a 5K trip on a credit card that I couldn't afford. Yeah. We're in Paris. I'm paying for it, by the way. And I chose to stay. And in my fantasy now, I'm like, cool, bye. I have the most fabulous solo trip in Paris. I call a friend and I'm like, I just blessed and released him. But that's not what I did. I stayed for a year.
Damn.
And forgiving that version of myself who was just doing her best at the time has been my life's work. And then also not only forgiving her, but really making amends to her for how hard I beat up on her in my brain for years. Saying I'm sorry now to her then. Like, wow, I'm really sorry that I've been kind of crappy to you because I thought you should have known better, but you were literally doing the best you could.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I've been treated. Does that resonate, Yue?
It resonates so much. And I wanted to relate this back to your book because your platform is about dating like a feminist.
Mm-hmm.
I love that idea. I do think a lot of us overcorrect on that, where we're like, I can see myself going through something like what you just went through, and then next year being like, fuck men, fuck all men.
Which I have been.
They all suck.
Yeah.
Being overprotective and also closed off.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of overcorrect into like uber feminist. So what does dating like a feminist actually mean? How do you strike that balance?
I don't think dating like a feminist means that you have to figure it all out on your own, and that if you haven't figured it out by now, then you're weak. And if you want to be in a romantic partnership, then you're weak and you should just want to, like, dating like a feminist means acknowledging your desires as if they matter and really claiming what you want. And coming into a collective of people who affirm the shit out of you and who help you move forward by like affirming that you're whole and amazing right now and you get to want what you want. Instead of, I think that a lot of people assume that dating like a feminist means, or even feminism versus dating is I either want a relationship and I'm a trad wife, or I am a feminist and I don't need a relationship to be whole. Well, it's a both and. I don't need a relationship to be whole. I'm whole right now, and I get to want what I want, and I haven't found it yet, and I get to expect the right person to show up in partnership with me, and wanting to be desired is a perfectly human, normal thing. It's about like holding all of that instead of making feminism this like one thing. You have to be independent or else. Like, what if it's a both and?
I love that. And I think that's exactly the same as what Yue was talking about with the desirability too, right? It's like, I can feel that, and it doesn't necessarily mean like I'm, being like this shell of a human because that's all I want, but I can still want it.
It's all a both and. I mean, it's back to the feminine masculine energy conversation too. That conversation is very much like it has to be one thing or the other. And I do think I am a feminist. I believe in equality for all people. I believe that we have a lot of work to do as a society to co-create that in the world. I believe that we may never get there in our lifetime. And I believe that I am an individual who gets to want what she wants. And I believe that my work in the world is to give permission to so many people who are told to want less, be less in order to belong and find love. I get to show up and be like, no, take up more space, want what you want, and you get to want what you want and you get to have it. Like all of those both ands are what make me a feminist dating coach and why I think feminist dating is about freedom.
What about for our listeners that identify as men? Because we do have some.
Love them.
Thank you. First of all, if you're here, that means that you are already a feminist. But
yeah.
Like, can they date like a feminist too?
Yes. And it's a very important, right? Because it's about equality for all people and acknowledging what you want and saying it out loud and being open to hearing other people's wants and needs too, right? Like it's that co-creation. If you want to be in a healthy, sustainable romantic relationship and you're a man, like buckle in, let's do some work too,
I mean, I think so much of what you've talked about, I can see like the parallel of how I got to where I was too, of like, the essence based of just leaning into my needs. I think for years I was like, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to say too much, shrink basically. And I think like a big piece of it was being like, okay, I actually do deserve it. And it took a while to get there. Like, how do you help people see that they can want it all? And like, we know you have your thank you next, please challenge that went viral on TikTok. Like, how do people start to like get into that essence?
Yeah. So I think that first it's important to recognize how your brain has been stuck in confirmation bias mode. So like if you were told that you were too much and to want less, if you've been in a relationship where you literally had to shrink your needs in order to belong, Your brain probably created a survival story that says it's not possible to get what you want. You're too much, like mine did, right? And so confirmation bias is my brain wanting to be safe and going out in the world and looking for evidence to prove that story right, because my brain would rather be right than learn something new. So it's important if you want to start believing that you're worthy of what you desire, that I believe that your desire is evidence that what you want exists. Hot take.
Right.
Like the Wright brothers didn't know that a plane could exist. They had a desire to build a plane and they put themselves out there and they made a plane. Their desire is evidence that it existed. So to build that new neural pathway, it might be possible that what I want exists. It might be possible that I get to have what I want. Do a thank you more, please challenge. So acknowledge what you want, even if it feels like a pipe dream right now. Even if you are like, oh, Lily, this is not going to work. People have begrudgingly taken me up on the thank you more, please challenge and seen results. So you go out in the world and every day for a week, look for tiny slivers of evidence that what you want exists. A flirty conversation with a barista, a cutie exiting a therapy office, a friendship conversation where you feel totally seen and held. Thank you, more please. When you say it out loud, your brain is going to get on board with the fact that you just experienced evidence that what you want exists. And you can then gather more evidence. So it's not a denial of your past experience. It's not toxic positivity. It's actually just saying like, okay, maybe more is out there than I have gathered information for in the past. So let's just gather new data.
I think that's so great. Yeah.
So into that.
I think you should do that with yours because I could see like,
yes.
I mean, I will do it as well, but I think like it's so common for us to get stuck into what happened in the past. Like, I think at the end of the day, that is like where all the root of a lot of issues come from is past experiences and saying that's fact. So what I love about the thank you next please challenge is like, actually, no, let's find some new truths out there.
Yeah, like I do think that it's like important to recognize recency bias also, which is another thing that your brain does, which is the last experience that you had. Your future casting, the rest of your life is going to be that same experience. You can see that in if you had a shitty job and you are afraid that you'll never have a good job and you're like, oh, this is just misery and I'm never going to get out of this misery. That's recency bias. It's not necessarily true. And you know what helps you in the job scenario, because that feels more neutral for a lot of people than dating. Dating feels very activating, especially if your TikTok feed is full of dating is trash, men are trash, people are trash videos.
Yeah.
So
toxic
using the
positivity.
career example. Oh my God. And so like acknowledging for the work example, okay, this job sucks. Both and. What if I got to want what I wanted? Just taking the future jobs out of it, put on paper, like, how do I want to feel at the next job? How do I want to be treated at the next job? How do I want leadership to behave? How do I want them to care for their employees? Putting that on paper means that you're so much more empowered with that information to go out in the world and look for thank you more please moments that kind of company job exists, which means that you'll probably find a great fucking job. Same with your love life. Like the more you acknowledge what you want, care for your nervous system with self-compassion that we've talked about, then acknowledge how you want to feel with essence-based preferences, then do a thank you more please challenge. You're so much more likely to encounter like aligned opportunities in your love life because of that.
It's so true. I think so many of us, I'm speaking for myself, we're scared to ask for what we really want. We're scared to see what would happen if the one thing we wanted actually appeared right before our eyes.
And I think that's the mind drama about the desiring thing.
Yeah.
But I do think that's when things click, is when you actually get real about what you want, because I firmly believe if you put that energy out, like that's what's going to come for you. What I'm taking away of really just all the connections, like, you know, we always say like society has fucked us, all this stuff, but like I really like how much we were able to go there of just like where this stuff comes from, because I see it in myself, like, you know, obviously having dated for decades in a relationship, like I still feel that like need to be chosen. You know, all the different parts, like it creeps in because we're human. So I'm personally going to try doing a lot of the self-compassion exercises the way you did it, because I don't think any stage of life is immune to it. And really like this cognitive dissonance stands out to me of like what we really want versus what we are afraid. Now it doesn't feel feminism to say that we want this.
Right.
And I love this. It can be both. It doesn't need to be one or the other.
Right.
I think that's just like what I'm taking away from this is like this permission to just release a little and be like, multiple things can be true at once. I can be feeling this way. That's okay. It doesn't need to be 100%, but I'm moving. I'm acknowledging.
Right.
And I love that so much.
I love that. And
Yeah.
I think that celebration
Yes.
of each step in the process allows you to like notice the change and create even more of it, or notice the good things that are happening and create even more of it. Of like, thank you, more please. Like it's happening even in small doses. I'm doing it imperfectly.
Yeah. This is not an episode about fuck men, why
No.
men suck, or like the patriarchy, down with the patriarchy. I think the patriarchy has fucked all of us over because it put all of us into a box and it said only one truth can exist at a time. So this is your truth. You got to fit into this box. And if you don't belong. And I think the Dating Like a Feminist platform is you can have all these different identities coexist in one to make up the unique person that you are, and to have the freedom to explore all the different evolutions of who you are is the most empowering thing we can offer ourselves. And I think what we've done in the past, why it's backfired, is because books like Why Men Love Bitches, again, it's like fighting the patriarchy. But what that book did was put women in a different box. It was like, no, you can't be this docile box. You're going to go in the bitch box. And I get the intention was good because intention was for us to express our needs, right? To have the freedom and permission to do that. But we can't go completely the other way and say all women must fit into this box to be desired by men. I think that's the same thing as patriarchy. It's just on the other side of it.
Yeah.
So giving ourselves the permission to express our needs and to possibly find needs that are conflicting. Like, yes, could be a little contradictory, but it's okay because they all exist within me. So I find that concept really empowering. And thank you for bringing that to light, because I hope everybody knows this episode applies to everybody. And the reason why we're so frustrated by dating is because we're all putting ourselves into a box, not expressing our needs, adapting ourselves to become a desirable person by modern culture standards, when we should be in this place of like, just be who you are. And then whoever embraces and celebrates all of you will show themselves to you.
100%. You can't say the wrong thing to the right person. So why don't you just like know what you want and ask for it and stop judging yourself for it, right? Like it is the rigid rulesy rules. That's why the subtitle of my book is like Breaking Dumb Dating Rules, a feminist guide to breaking dumb dating rules and finding love. Because I think that like dating gets to be an expression of your agency and joy even when you know what you want, you ask for it, you set boundaries often, and you step into more play and main character energy here.
I love one of the things you say in the book is like this, oh my God, I can't believe this exists type of relationship.
Yeah.
And I personally felt this in my current partnership. Like it was like I'd never had a relationship like this. And that's because it felt for once it was a co-creation. I wasn't trying to be someone I wasn't.
Yeah.
And I think that ultimately like is the feminist way of like you can have a relationship and still be feminist and still have something that serves you. And not have like one of like you talked about at the beginning of like, I will bow down and have my husband lead. Like that doesn't need to be the modern way.
No, the right people will make themselves apparent. Like I know it to be true. And the thing that I'll leave with is it's very difficult to believe that what you want is possible a lot of times, especially if you've had a lot of hard dating experiences, which most people have, whether they're a late bloomer or they just got out of a 10-year marriage. And so I just really firmly believe that your desire is evidence that it exists, and that if you desire a relationship, like you get to have one, and that it's on its way when you show up intentionally. And I'll believe it for you until people can believe it for themselves. So I just like to pass along, like, I'm over here in Brooklyn, anybody listening, believing it for you until you can believe it for yourself.
Oh, we're believers. We're believers in you, Lily. And if people want to find out more about you, your book, your podcast, where can they go?
Absolutely. So Thank You More Please is out everywhere books are sold. You can go to datebrazen.com/book. I have this fabulous bonus that is the 10 top dating issues that you're probably facing and exactly what podcast episodes to listen to like fix those issues within 5 minutes. And so you can get that at datebrazen.com/book. And you can find out how to work with me at datebrazen.com. And you can listen to the Date Brazen podcast anywhere you get podcasts. And I'm on TikTok and Instagram at Date Brazen.
And for our listeners, thank you for really digesting the material in this episode. I think this is one of those episodes that deserves many playbacks because there are a lot of questions to ask yourself, a lot of self-reflection. While you are finding both of our podcasts, why not give both of us a rating and review? 5 stars. And in the body of your review, maybe tell us something you learned about yourself from this episode or an aha moment you had maybe.
Or just say thank you more, please.
Or thank you more, please. Yes. Because we love more ratings. Thank you more, please.
We're putting it in the universe right now. Thank you more, please.
Ask for what you want, baby. Yes.
Make us believers that we can get more ratings and reviews. If you want to get in contact with us, you can find us on Instagram at Dateable Podcast, or you can email us hello@dateablepodcast.com. And our book will be out in January of 2025. Woo! And it's, our 2 books are such great companions for each other.
They really are.
I really think they would be great together. Like, we should marry the 2 books. So yes.
So much overlap in the way we think. Yes.
Love that.
It would be great companions. Yes. So you can find all that information on dateablepodcast.com. Okay, we're going to wrap up this episode.
Stay dateable.